the loss of biodiversity, and climate change. Now, of course, we know these challenges have been compounded by the COVID-19 pandemic, the war in Ukraine, which has led to major shocks and disruptions to global food supply chains. And a new FAO report also highlights the devastating impact that disaster events, which have been brought on by climate change, have had on crops and livestock, and estimating $3.8 trillion lost over the last 30 years alone. Now, in order to build resilience to such global shocks, farmers, processors, and others in developing countries need access to finance and services in order to meet the Sustainable Development Goals. As much as $350 billion per year for the next decade will be needed to transform food systems to sustain healthy people, a healthy planet, and a healthy economy, according to the Food and Land Use Coalition. Agri-food systems also present opportunities for mitigating and adapting to climate change and addressing biodiversity loss. And that's why we need to urgently attract SDG-aligned, inclusive, and efficient public and private sector investment in agri-food to reduce food insecurity and to foster employment, particularly for women and youth. This session will focus on the rationale for investments in agriculture and food sectors, financing and investment mechanisms and pathways for transformation. We are still awaiting the video message from Dr. Chu. Shall we move on if we cannot watch it? Do we know if it's coming? Excellent. Okay. This is the Director General of the FAO who is delivered a video message for us. Please play it. I believe it's coming. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. We will need the volume for the message, please. Unfortunately, we're not hearing the Director General of the FAO, but we can read the subtitles. If we can have the volume, that would be ideal. Thank you.
Are at the nexus of the most of the SDGs. Agri-food system around the world face multiple interrelated challenges. Hundred 35 million people faced hunger in 2022, and hundreds of millions of people across the world are malnourished. More than excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, agri-food systems are at the nexus of the most of the SDGs. Agri-food systems around the world face multiple interrelated challenges.
Once again, apologies that we seem to be having trouble with this video message from the Director General of the FAO. We hope we can play it a little bit later. He does bring up some very key issues that need to be addressed in the agri-food system. So once again, apologies that the video message is not as clear as we had hoped. But next, I'd like to introduce Pedro Manuel Moreno. He's the Deputy Secretary General of UNCTAD to deliver his welcoming address. And I'm glad to say you are here in person. Over to you, Mr. Moreno.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here in person too, because you never know what can happen with technology. Excellencies, dear ministers, Monsieur le Ministre, welcome, and dear friends in Rome too. I warmly welcome you to the Investment in Agri-Food Systems Forum, a partnership between the FAO and UNCTAD, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. We are opening this forum on an occasion that couldn't be more fitting, as today is the United Nations World Food Day. This forum is an opportunity to place agri-food systems in the center of the discussions of finance and investment for policymakers present in this event. And this is much needed, actually. The recent crises have contributed to food insecurity. The war in Ukraine has triggered spikes in food prices, which increase the risk of hunger, especially for people in many developing countries. On top of this, the climate crisis is an increasing threat to food security. Extreme weather events are taking their toll on food production. And it is very often the poorest countries that are affected the most, but have also the fewest means to adapt and transform their food systems. One could have expected that with the supply chain shocks and food price inflation that the world has suffered, international financing and investments in agriculture and agri-food systems would be increasing. But such financing and investment has not happened. In fact, we are not making progress. According to our World Investment Report, the number of international investment projects in agri-food systems is lower today than it was in 2015, when the Sustainable Development Goals were adopted and when we all committed to a world of zero hunger. With this forum and our partnership on investment with the Food and Agriculture Organization, with the FAO, we want to continue to turning around this trend. The forum offers the opportunity to combine our knowledge, better understanding, and strategize on three areas. One, how to channel more of the funds invested in sustainable finance in global capital markets to food production, where it is needed the most. These markets offer a real opportunity as underlying investments have been growing steadily. Two, how technology can help boost productivity and resilience of food production and supply chains, and what investments are needed for these goals. And three, what investments are needed to improve the sustainability of food production and mitigate loss and waste in supply chains. You all know that these are complex issues which require collaboration, cooperation, and the expertise from all of us, from all of you. In this spirit, and as when UNCTAD and FAO formulated the principles of responsible agriculture and investment many years ago, that we continue to partner with each other. With this forum, we want to offer the space and expertise to take this thinking forward so that in 2030 the world is, indeed, and finally, free of hunger. I wish you a fruitful exchange and look forward to hearing the outcomes, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno, the Deputy Secretary General of UNCTAD. Now next, I'd like to invite the speakers here to address the question at hand, which is how do we start to invest and transform the agri-food system? We'll start to set the scene by addressing the critical question, which is what are the investment needs of agriculture and food security, and what are some of the major challenges and opportunities? I'll start with His Excellency Moma Ould Bebat Hamahullah, Minister of Agriculture from Mauritania. Your Excellency, please. And he'll be speaking in French. Thomas, I believe, will be providing translation afterwards. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Ok, merci, Madame la Présidente. Tout d'abord, avant d'intervenir dans le thème qui nous réunit ce soir et qui est lié à une problématique auquel nous devrons s'y atteler au cours des 10 prochaines années, je voudrais tout d'abord remercier sincèrement les autorités du pays frère des Émirats arabes unis pour l'accueil chaleureux et l'hospitalité qu'elles m'ont réservée, ainsi que la délégation qui m'accompagne depuis notre arrivée à ce beau pays.
Yes, so first the Honorable Minister is thanking for the hosting country to host this event. Yes, please, Minister.
J'adresse encore mes sincères remerciements à la Conférence des Nations Unies pour le commerce et le développement et l'Organisation des Nations Unies pour l'agriculture, pour l'alimentation et l'agriculture pour nous avoir invités, ainsi que pour la bonne préparation de cette conférence et l'excellente organisation de ces événements.
Yes, he thanks also to UNCTAD and FAO to organize and invite them to this event.
Comme vous le savez, l'investissement dans la transformation des systèmes agroalimentaires est d'une importance capitale, surtout dans un contexte international, caractérisé par des grands défis qui font de la sécurité alimentaire un enjeu fondamental dans toutes les stratégies de développement économique et social au niveau mondial et en particulier dans notre région.
The minister says that basically food security has to be part of the development strategies of countries because it's an important issue.
La crise énergétique, financière, la pandémie du Covid, les impacts du changement climatique et la guerre en Ukraine ont démontré que les objectifs de développement durable ne seront pas malheureusement atteints dans les délais prédéterminés.
Unfortunately, recent developments like the economic financial crisis, the COVID and recent geopolitical challenges are making very challenging to attain the sustainable development goals.
Aussi, le dernier rapport de l'Organisation des Nations Unies pour l'alimentation et l'agriculture sur la sécurité alimentaire et la nutrition indique que le nombre de personnes souffrant de la faim a augmenté de 150 millions, portant le nombre total à 828 millions de personnes.
And unfortunately, the number of hungry people are increasing as well, and the minister is citing a number that it has been increasing by 150 million, unfortunately, in recent years, the number of hungry people.
En guise de contribution, pour répondre aux questions relatives à la revue et à la mise en harmonie des stratégies adoptées par la transformation des systèmes agroalimentaires et la mobilisation des investissements pour arriver à cet objectif, il est urgent de définir de nouvelles approches et prendre des initiatives pour renforcer le partenariat et réunir les conditions pour accroître l'investissement dans les systèmes agroalimentaires, l'objectif étant de rendre ces systèmes plus résilients, compétitifs et durables.
And that's why it's utmost that we urgently transform agri-food systems and mobilize substantial investments so that agri-food systems can become sustainable, resilient, efficient and inclusive.
À notre avis, pour que cet investissement soit utile, il est nécessaire de déterminer les priorités au niveau des chaînes de valeur des systèmes alimentaires agricoles. À titre d'exemple, l'amélioration durable de la production et de la productivité. Il est également nécessaire de développer une approche efficace pour une meilleure gestion des stocks et des produits stratégiques.
So it's very important to increase the efficiency and productivity of agri-food systems.
Puisque les investissements sont déterminants pour l'avenir de notre sécurité alimentaire, sa résilience et sa durabilité, il est nécessaire d'adopter une approche intelligente pour valoriser cet investissement et le rendre plus approprié à la réalité de notre région.
And in transforming agri-food systems, the importance of investments are high, so it's very important that we mobilize sufficient investments.
Au niveau national, je suis heureux de confirmer aux distingués participants que les priorités de notre pays sont conformes à l'agenda des Nations Unies visant l'atteinte des objectifs de développement durable dans les délais prédéterminés.
And at the national level, he sees it as very important to work towards the sustainable development goals at national level.
Nous sommes également convaincus que la transformation des systèmes agroalimentaires est l'un des axes les plus importants liés à la mise en œuvre de cet agenda. C'est pourquoi nous avons adopté une stratégie ambitieuse visant à promouvoir une croissance accélérée et une prospérité partagée, SCAP, pour tous les citoyens, déclinant un plan d'action pour l'atteinte des objectifs de développement durable.
And that's why they are focusing very much in their national strategy to transforming agri-food systems in their country, in his country.
Dans ce cadre, des projets structurants sont réalisés et un soutien est apporté par les plus hautes autorités du pays aux politiques agricoles. Ainsi, pour améliorer l'environnement institutionnel approprié pour l'investissement, il a été créé une agence nationale pour la promotion des investissements en Mauritanie, l'ouverture d'un guichet unique et la révision du code des investissements.
And that's why they created a special field or within the agency of investment in Mauritania to focus on investments in agri-food systems.
En effet, notre pays dispose d'un ensemble d'atouts dont on peut citer, sans être exhaustif, des facteurs agroécologiques favorisant la diversification agricole, des accords régionaux et internationaux pour faciliter les échanges commerciaux, la proximité d'importants marchés régionaux et internationaux, une demande croissante sur les marchés nationaux et régionaux, la présence des ports et des réseaux routiers, l'extension de l'électrification dans la plupart des zones de production et leur couverture par des moyens de communication, l'existence de bonnes opportunités d'investissement dans l'industrie agricole et divers services agricoles, des avantages compétitifs importants comme la localisation géostratégique des ressources naturelles.
Yes, please. And he's citing a lot of fields on which Mauritania is focusing in transforming agri-food systems. So he is mentioning, for example, the importance of
please proceed to Saudi Arabia booth at Hall 5.
So he's, for example, mentioning the importance of local food production, then, for example, to improving the transportation so that, agriculture products can flow more freely within the region and among countries.
Au terme de cette brève intervention, je ne peux que confirmer notre disponibilité à encourager la coopération et à saisir les opportunités de développement offertes par la complémentarité des ressources dont dispose notre pays.
And that's why international cooperation he sees as very important as well in developing our agri-food systems.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency. I can go now to Ambassador Dr. Namira Negim, the Director General of the African Migration Observatory. Sorry, mouthful. But please give us a sense of setting the context of what we're facing at the moment in terms of the investments needed in agri-food systems and from your perspective.
Masal khair. I will make your life easier and I'll speak in English. Good afternoon, everybody, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I will not speak on agriculture per se because I'm not a specialist. In the room of specialists, I have to be wary of what I should say. But I'll speak about the impacts of migration as a challenge. To answer your question in the beginning, one of the challenges in Africa is in relation to migration. And one of the major issues that we have to look into in order to move to the investment in agriculture is in relation to the data. We have a huge lack of data on the impacts of migration because so far what has been noted in different researches that we have rural-urban migration and we have rural migration. So these two are heavily impacting the development of agriculture and also the sustainability of our food security. So basically, these are major challenges. We have so many drivers. We have climate change, poverty, lack of jobs, everything, lack of security, so lack of healthy life, lack of education. It's always there is a gap between the wages and services in urban areas versus rural areas. These are all drivers, and now, more than ever, climate change that is impacting all of us, leading to either deterioration in land productivity or degradation of the land. So this is a major issue where the farmers who should advance and develop in agribusiness and agriculture are deserting their land. There are a lot of research comparing the households in different rural areas in Africa. The drivers I mentioned are the common drivers. Of course, there are specificities for every country, even for every town. But this is something crucial if we are looking into finding more pathways to investing in agriculture. We have to invest in the data to better plan and know what we need. I'll stop here and then we take forward.
Thank you. You've given us a lot to think about there, how obviously the food insecurity is really prompting a lot of the migration that we're seeing that is leading to this sad influx of refugees in other parts of the world. Next, I can go to Dr. Ibrahim El Dukuri. He's the Director General of the Arab Organization for Agricultural Development for the Arab region. I believe he's joining us via Zoom. Dr. El Dukuri, can you hear us? Excellent. I think you can hear us, but I'm having trouble hearing you. We would like to just give you the chair basically to talk about what you see as some of the major challenges, and hopefully we can hear you. Could you speak again? I'm afraid we are not hearing you, Dr. El Dukuri. Hopefully we can work on this situation to try to be able to get your audio, and I will come back to you. We also have Dr. Lelo Francisco. He's the chairman of the board from the Angolan Investment and Export Promotion Agency. Dr. Lelo, are you here? Could you make yourself known to us? No, I'm afraid not. So we're down to two panelists whom we can hear. I'm so many apologies for that. We'll go back to Your Excellency, the Minister from Mauritania next, because we can start our session, which is really looking at some of the big challenges. You listed out many of the challenges in Mauritania just a little earlier on in terms of what your country is doing to implement policies to improve the situation for food security. But as we heard from this morning's opening session, in the words of the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, investments in the agri-food sector in particular have stagnated globally. So what can be done or is being done to attract public and private investment to transform the agri-food systems in your country specifically? Would you be able to respond to that question, Your Excellency?
Oui, alors la question, vous pouvez entendre? C'est bien? C'est bien. Alors, elle demande qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire. Alors, il n'y a pas investissement suffisant dans le secteur de l'agriculture. Alors, qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire? Qu'est-ce que vous pensez, par exemple, dans votre pays? Qu'est-ce que le public et les entreprises peuvent faire?
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Effectivement, il faut noter que les différentes interventions de ce matin lors de l'ouverture de notre forum, il a été unanime qu'il est nécessaire d'engager dans les meilleurs délais, sinon les années à venir, des investissements dans le domaine de la transformation agroalimentaire pour arriver à un ensemble d'objectifs
يا
qui
دكتور إبراهيم.
doivent
اهلا مرحبا بك، اهلا يا دكتور، ازيك؟
الحمد لله، بارك الله فيك، وشكرا على
I believe we can hear the
تواصلك معنا
conversation on
وتواجدك
Zoom
معنا.
now.
بارك الله فيك.
الله يسلمك، الحمد لله.
Should
كيف
we
امورك؟ طيب ان شاء الله.
والله الحمد
should we
لله
continue
تمام.
with His
انت
Excellency's
موجود في
statements
القاهرة؟
first?
ايوه انا كنت
And then we can go
بحاول
back
زي
to
حالات
Zoom.
البداية
They don't seem to
قعدت
appear to be able to hear us. Mr. Al-Dukari and Assistant Secretary General, I believe we're hearing the conversation you're having on Zoom. We'll come back to you, Mr. Al-Dukari, after this, but we're currently hearing from His Excellency from Mauritania. So please continue. Apologies for that disruption.
Donc, je disais donc, nous sommes aujourd'hui en train de discuter les questions liées à l'avenir de notre planète, en particulier par rapport aux éléments liés à la sécurité alimentaire, et que les différents défis auxquels nous étions confrontés les années dernières ont fait que, malheureusement, sur un ensemble des objectifs qu'on avait assignés pour l'année 2003, qu'on risquerait de ne pas être au rendez-vous. Et qu'il faut effectivement voir dans quelle mesure on peut améliorer la situation à l'effet d'arriver en 2030 aux différents objectifs que nous avons assignés. Par rapport à la Mauritanie, la problématique de sécurité alimentaire se pose et en effet les différents objectifs de développement durable pour lesquels on a souscrit au cours de ces dernières années, nos différentes politiques ont cherché à arriver à ces objectifs. Et c'est dans ce cadre donc que je viens de dire qu'on a tout d'abord adopté une stratégie nationale qu'on a appelée la stratégie de croissance accélérée pour une prospérité partagée. C'est une stratégie qui définit un ensemble d'objectifs, un ensemble d'axes sur lesquels le gouvernement doit intervenir et qui a été décliné en différents plans d'action pour l'atteinte de ces objectifs. Par ailleurs, en réponse à la problématique de Covid 2020 et à la guerre d'Ukraine et tous les défis que nous venons de mentionner par rapport au changement climatique, le gouvernement a engagé un programme en 2020 qu'il a appelé le programme prioritaire sur lequel un ensemble d'axes ont été définis et pour lesquels des moyens importants ont été mobilisés à travers les financements publics bien sûr et les financements privés. Et ce programme a cherché à développer un ensemble d'axes pour arriver à un objectif d'autosuffisance alimentaire sur un ensemble de préoccupations qui sont les nôtres. Et ce programme a intervenu sur un ensemble d'axes de santé, d'infrastructures, de sécurité alimentaire, d'augmentation de production et de productivité, de lutte contre la pauvreté. Et nous pensons que malgré que les résultats atteints ne répondent pas encore aux préoccupations définies dans les différentes stratégies, nous pensons en tout cas que ces différents axes ont cherché à un peu développer tout ce qui est de nature à améliorer les objectifs de développement durable. Je pense que, comme il a été dit ce matin et comme d'ailleurs ça a été partagé par un ensemble d'intervenants préoccupés par la problématique de sécurité alimentaire, que les financements qui sont mobilisés font défaut au niveau de différentes stratégies. On évalue des stratégies, on les met en œuvre, on définit les axes pour lesquels on peut arriver à cet objectif. Mais malheureusement, les financements, que ce soit public, que ce soit privé, ne sont pas souvent au rendez-vous. Et dans ce cadre, donc, nous pensons que nos assises d'aujourd'hui vont prendre en compte cette préoccupation et chercher dans un avenir proche quelles sont les possibilités offertes pour l'ensemble d'intervenants dans ce domaine, en particulier le système des Nations Unies, nos partenaires de développement, comment encore le secteur privé qui, pour le moment, son intervention et sa participation dans l'atteinte de ce objectif reste en deçà des préoccupations des différents États, comment dans les meilleurs délais et dans les meilleurs délais, on peut améliorer l'ensemble de ces conditions. Je pense que, en tout cas, notre gouvernement est préoccupé par l'ensemble de ces contraintes, de ces défis, et il met tout en œuvre à l'effet de répondre à ces préoccupations. Je ne sais pas si j'ai répondu à la question de Madame la Présidente.
Oui, merci bien. Alors, the minister was explaining that there is the serious challenge, food security in Mauritania, and because of the lack of investments and the COVID crisis, they put in place this national strategy and program in 2020 for rural development, and they have mobilized public finance as well, so that to help local productivity, the production in agriculture, to fight poverty, and in a way in a sustainable way. So he finds it very important, but unfortunately the financing is not enough. So of course the public investment is often not enough, and that's why private investment needs to be mobilized. So he is calling for solutions, even including at international level, how the private sector investment can be mobilized, to increase the food security and to tackle the challenges what countries are facing currently.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Thomas, and thank you, Your Excellency. It's very nicely framed, and indeed the private sector is crucial in this conversation, and I hope to go to someone in the private sector who will speak to us towards the end of this session. But next, I believe we have Dr. Ibrahim Al-Dukri online. He is joining us via Zoom. The audio issues have been fixed. Dr. Al-Dukri, can you hear us? I believe there's a 10-second delay. If you can hear us, Dr. Al-Dukri, we'd love to hear from you now. Obviously, you're the Director General of the Arab Organization for Agricultural Development. So please give us a sense of your perspective in terms of what needs to be done to stimulate investments into the agri-food system.
Dr. Al-Dukri, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now. Okay. You hear me right now?
You can hear us, Dr. Al-Dukri. We'd love to hear from you now.
Okay, thank you very much.
General of the Arab Organization for Agricultural Development. So please give us a sense of your perspective in terms of what needs to be done to stimulate investments into the agri-food system.
Okay, thank you very much, and good afternoon to all. I can hear you now. It's my pleasure to intervene in this ongoing event on investment to transform agri-food systems. You hear me right now?
You can hear us, Dr. Al-Dukri. We'd love to hear from you now.
Okay, thank you very much.
General of the Arab Organization for Agricultural Development. So please give us a sense of your perspective.
I'm afraid we're still having audio issues. We're currently hearing an echo of that conversation. Should we try to persist with this, or is this too difficult to hear?
It's my pleasure to...
Let's give it a few more seconds. I'm hoping the audio issues will be fixed.
Agri-food system.
دكتور ابراهيم قفل الويب كاست لو سمحت اللي فتحه بدري، هو اللي بيعمل لك الصدى.
Okay, you hear me right now?
We are hearing you perfectly.
It's okay. Okay, good afternoon to all. It's my pleasure to intervene in this ongoing event on investment to transform agri-food systems. Many thanks to the organizers for giving me the chance to intervene. And let me start off with the rationale for investment in agriculture and food systems in the course of transforming them to be more productive and more efficient and more resilient. The importance of food security is not deniable, and food on the availability side from the definition of food security comes from two sources: its own production from either existing systems, agri-food systems, or newly arranged agri-food systems. This is the production side of it. And the other side, or the other arm, is the exchange through trade. Agricultural production in the Arab region is failing to meet and to keep up with the existing demand, let alone the future demand of the region for accessible and stable food supplies. This happens for various structural problems in the agri-food systems. For that matter, let me just mention some of those problems and characteristics of the region. Land degradations come at the forefront, water scarcity, a dominance of traditional low productive agri-food systems. This is further compounded with economic hardships, regional and international, pandemics of various nature, environmental and natural degradation, for that matter, aspects of drought, floods, heat waves, and then finally, the political and social unrest of our region. If this situation continues, the region is unlikely to reach the UN goals of zero hunger by 2030, which means this requires a paradigm shift in the way the region does business in agriculture and agri-food systems. In essence, we need to set up a right model, right investment model based on technological advancement, suitable financial regimes, and precisely we need to address the following structural aspects. One, enhance the supply side with more attention to food waste and losses, which are very dominant in our region. On the production side, we need to tackle the technological and institutional arrangements to enhance productivity, which is at this moment considered to be really low among all regions of the globe. Number two, it's important to set up inclusive finance and relevant fintechs that do not leave behind the mass which constitute farming in our region. And here I mean small scale and medium farmers. Number three, we need to engage the private sector and civil society organizations through creating a conducive environment for investment, because both the private sector and civil society organization, you need to set up the scene differently to make it conducive for them to invest in agriculture. And number four, resilience building, which comes at the forefront in this region due to all different kinds of hazards that the region faces in terms of natural and human-made disasters. And mainly here I'm referring to the socio-political unrest, which is very clear in our region. And number five, we need to pin down the concept of value chain development, which is critical for sustainable and lasting engagement of all the key actors, whether private sector, public sector, civil society organizations, and you name them. With that, it's necessary to strive hard to set up investment model in agriculture or agri-food system based on the following: good governance of agricultural resources, because we know agriculture is based on four critical resources: land, water, animal and plant, genetic resources, and the climate. So the number one is good governance of these agricultural resources. Second, we need to employ the relevant technologies and innovations. The third, we need to value the engagement of all potential actors. And for that matter, the private sector, civil society organization, small and medium scale enterprises. And then finally, we need to secure and make sure that there is financial inclusion that doesn't really leave behind the targeted group, whether civil society organization, private sector, small scale and medium scale farmers. So with that, I think we call for this inclusive, relevant investment modules that based on technology, finance, and a critical, conducive environment. So this is my intervention in short or in brief. And thank you very much for giving me the chance to react to why is it necessary to invest in the agricultural sector, mainly the agri-food systems, to revert the current course of action, which is not taking us to the level of meeting the UN goal of zero hunger. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Al-Dukuri. I'm so glad we could hear you, because you gave us a comprehensive list of the challenges and, of course, some of the issues and solutions that we can use to address those challenges. Thank you once again. Now I will move back to Ambassador Namira. You talked about the migratory challenges a little bit earlier, but let's now, as we come towards the conclusion of this session, look towards solutions. What kind of policies, public policies, need to be put in place to try to mitigate some of the issues that you're seeing,
Thank you
and some of the challenges that we're, well, there are lots of challenges with this session and the audio. Apologies once again. I was trying to finish that question. What are some of the solutions you see in terms of public policy that can be put in place to address the many challenges, not just the audio challenges, but the many challenges, the real challenges on the ground that we're facing?
Thank you very much. If we have in every 5 persons in Africa, 1 is living in hunger, then your question is pertinent. And I do believe one of the first things that policies can do, and apart from having enough data to build the policy on, is to attract the investments, not only from the regular investors, but one of the things that we should do is address the diaspora and check in the agriculture communities themselves, where they have migrants, how far their own family members who migrated are willing to dish in this investment, because this can start at the grassroots level, and this is how we can build a snowball effect to make sure that we mitigate all the horrendous effects we have all spoken on. One of the things is in relation to reaching out to all the farmers. We can use, like now we have a lot of tools between radio, media, and e-platforms to reach out to all of them, and especially to the women, because this is something that you can see a lot in Africa. Most of them use the radios as like on their small phones. So reaching out to them in order to know training programs to make sure they can join these programs and how. At the same time, in order to be able to bring farmers to invest themselves, they need to feel secure in the investment. So they have to have confidence that it will yield profit. This is something that we have to think about. The other thing is also increase our dialogue and putting programs in place for the regularized migration in agriculture. We have a project in the AU, joint labor migration with partners. This can be replicated in relation to farming. We know there are the seasonal migration, they are not sustainable, but we need to make sure that they are trained to be able even to join this seasonal migration. This is something in relation to the rural migration, of course, that's also one of the things. Coordinating and tightening agri-food value chains, including investing in better transport and institutional infrastructure, I think it's very important because this will benefit make the farmers themselves benefit from market opportunities, and hence there will be local generation of employment. This is something also very important when it comes to the way forward. We need definitely to study the remittances issue, how to make it easier for those abroad to transfer at a low cost the money and invest in agriculture. We need to study the best practices to protect and empower the migrants and evaluate their skills. This is the only way where we can succeed in having the migrant farm workers living in better conditions and achieving Agenda 2063 and the 2030 development goals. In brief, a lot has been done, but a lot is yet to be done. And I believe this is doable. Thank you.
That's a wonderful, optimistic note. Thank you, Ambassador Namira. Now, earlier we kept hearing about the need for private investment as well. Your Excellency of Mauritania, you talked about the need for private investment together with the public sector to try to address some of the issues. And in fact, next, if I can come to Fadi Fallah Jafar, who's the General Secretary of the Arab Federation for Food Industries, representing the private sector here. Could somebody get a microphone to Mr. Fallah Jafar, please? Because we'd like to hear his views in terms of how the private sector can come into this very crucial problem that we're facing to try to help. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Private sector, since 2,000 years ago, trader, industrial, buy and sell, but the agriculture is the main source for life. Water, land, people, and seeds. After that, the people will be thinking, how can provide and innovate, what can I eat? Since 20 years ago, the people thinking, how can I eat with food, safety food, but the good quality, to save some money, to not spend by medicine. But after 22, after COVID, the people look for what? How can I survive and not have a lot of money? Because a lot of people spend now around 65% from his income. Everything will be going up, but until now, he need to find some good food to survive. All the private sector looking for what? What the consumer need. But the government not see like this one. Government see, okay, I need 5 items, oil, seeds, rice, and sugar, like this one. But the private sector, when he produce something, he not look like this one. Look, what the children eat, women eat, young eat, and old eat. And all the statistics we can get from a real one, from the market, not from like paper. like in Morocco, yes, last week I'm in Morocco. When I'm going in a market, I'm find something wrong. I told him, I'm asking the Minister of Industrial in Morocco. I told him the product of Moroccan is expensive than anything coming from outside. I told him like tuna or sardine is very expensive. You can buy from Thailand or from another country. It's cheaper than produced from Morocco. And after that, only the raw material, it means fish, only 22%. And around 80%, everything like tin, like packaging, like oil, is import from outside. Now, if the country looking only how can produce from my land, this is wrong. Why? Because the supply chain, it means packaging, transportation, storage, everything. But the raw material like tuna, only 20% and 80% packaging and advertising and blah, blah, blah. This is what I need. Are we looking what the consumer will be eat after 5 years from now to make good strategy. Thank very much the Minister of Mauritania. Is next year we have big event in Mauritania. Mauritania now play very, very, very good player because have very long river and Senegal River and have also like a pure land. This is now we're looking for how can invest in Mauritania to make raw material and semi-finished product. And thank you for your.
Thank you so much for that interjection, and really crucial to hear from you, Fadi Falah Jafar, the General Secretary of the Arab Federation for Food Industries, because as you say, the private sector needs assurances from the public sector, and also the cost of raw materials is also a big issue, and these need to be, there needs to be intervention to try to manage some of those big issues. I'm just summarizing what you're saying. Now, we're about to end the session, so I'd like to particularly end it with the two panelists who are here. I don't know if Dr. Al-Dukari is still on the session, but what I would like to end with is a pledge, a call to action in terms of the kind of policies required, the one action that you can take to repurpose the fiscal support, to transform the agri-food system. What is one pledge or action that each of you can take to repurpose fiscal support to transform agri-food systems so that we can fulfill the crucial Sustainable Development Goal number 2 of ending hunger, achieving food security, and improved nutrition? Let's start with you, Your Excellency. A very short answer. What is the one pledge that you can make to address this very big problem? Perhaps just one thing. Yeah.
Il y a une question pour vous. Elle demande qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire pour réorienter les soutiens internes pour l'agriculture. Alors, vous savez, vous dépensez maintenant quelques fonds à l'agriculture, mais comment cette ressource peut mieux utiliser si vous réorientez cette ressource, si vous utilisez dans une différente manière comme maintenant, peut-être ça serait plus efficace. Est-ce que vous avez quelques suggestions pour ça? Comment on peut utiliser mieux les finances publiques que vous dépensez à l'agriculture, que l'agriculture puisse marcher mieux que maintenant?
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Moi, je disais tout à l'heure que les objectifs sont multiples. Et malheureusement, les objectifs liés au secteur de l'agriculture, surtout sur tous les plans liés à la sécurité alimentaire et la couverture des besoins des populations en produits alimentaires indispensables. Tout ça fait que les objectifs sont tellement énormes, les besoins sont tellement énormes, au point où, comparé au financement disponible et pouvant être mobilisé, ce n'est pas souvent cohérent. On a un besoin et on a des financements. Et généralement, ces financements, qu'ils soient publics ou qu'ils soient privés, ne couvrent pas les besoins de manière significative et les objectifs que nous assignons dans le cadre de nos différentes politiques et stratégies. C'est dire que les moyens dont nous disposons aujourd'hui et sur lesquels nous orientons nos actions sont des moyens qui servent effectivement à atteindre un minimum d'objectifs, pas les objectifs assez. Donc, dans une situation où les moyens font défaut, réfléchir à les orienter vers d'autres axes beaucoup plus pertinents, je ne pense pas que c'est la préoccupation du gouvernement, en tout cas mauritanien. La préoccupation du gouvernement mauritanien, c'est d'arriver un jour, à travers les financements publics ou privés ou de partenaires de développement, d'atteindre les objectifs assignés aux différentes stratégies. Tant que ces moyens restent limités, on va rester dans des conditions très particulières pour réfléchir à une orientation vers d'autres axes stratégiques. Surtout si nous considérons que les axes pour lesquels on a défini ces stratégies restent des axes prioritaires pour le gouvernement mauritanien, notamment en matière de couverture des besoins alimentaires, en céréales, en produits maraîchers, les axes qui soutiennent tout ça liés à la mise en valeur en matière d'augmentation des superficies, d'aménagement hydro-agricole, de collecte des eaux de pluie, surtout dans des conditions où nous sommes un pays, comme vous savez, nous sommes structurellement un pays sous la sécheresse depuis plusieurs années. Donc, je pense que les moyens jusqu'ici mobilisés par l'État à travers ces différents financements sont concentrés vers des actions vraiment prioritaires et pour lesquelles je ne pense pas que les orienter vers autre axe résoudrait le problème. Je pense que, comme je l'ai dit tout à l'heure, et d'ailleurs c'est l'avis partout de beaucoup des intervenants ce matin, que les prochaines années doivent avoir une mobilisation totale de l'ensemble de ceux qui sont en charge des objectifs de développement durable pour qu'on puisse avoir les moyens suffisants à l'effet d'arriver à nos objectifs. Et toutefois que les moyens sont là, on entreprendra les actions effectivement prioritaires et les différents axes pour lesquels on a défini des stratégies. Et si éventuellement il y a de nouveaux thèmes pour lesquels il faut réorienter les financements, c'est à ce moment-là qu'on peut réfléchir. Sinon, pour le moment, nos préoccupations majeures, c'est de mettre en œuvre ces différentes stratégies pour lesquelles on a défini des axes, des plans d'action, et nous pensons que jusqu'ici, les moyens mobilisés qu'à travers les publics ou les privés ou à travers nos partenaires de développement ne sont pas encore suffisants pour la couverture de l'ensemble des objectifs.
Merci beaucoup. I asked for one pledge, but that sounded like a lot of pledges. If you could summarize quickly, because we're coming to the end of the session. Thank you.
So basically, he's saying that his concern is that they don't have enough financial resources. So unfortunately, they are not in a situation that they have enough financial resources and they are thinking how to reorganize that financial resource. But they are in a situation that they don't have enough. So the objective is now to mobilize more private and public financing.
Excellent. I would come to you, Ambassador Namira, for your final, just one pledge, one thing that you can make and put into place, take action to try to address this issue of transforming the agri-food system. If you can be very brief, please. Thank you.
I will. Thank you very much. I do believe that the current situation requires new mindsets and new approaches to deal with the increasing mobility in the world, especially in rural areas. The pledge is to link the data on drivers of rural migration, especially climate change, together with remittances to the solutions in financing and investment in food supply chains and agribusiness. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Damiranegem. Now, I believe we do have the opening video that we were trying to show you earlier, and this is, of course, from the Director General of the FAO, who has sent us a video message. Can we play that video message now? In it, of course, he summarizes some of the big issues that we've been talking about, and that is the challenge of transforming agri-food systems. So once again, I bring you the opening video we tried to show you earlier, the Director General of the Food and Agricultural Organization, Dr. Chu Dongyu.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, agri-food systems are at the nexus of most of the SDGs. Agri-food systems around the world face multiple interrelated challenges, while at the same time contributing towards several of the same challenges. They account for 1/3 of the greenhouse gas emissions that are driving climate change and extreme weather events. Around 735 million people faced hunger in 2022, and hundreds of millions of people across the world are malnourished. More than 3.1 billion people were unable to afford their health care in 2021. Currently, more than 13% of food produced globally is lost after harvest before it reaches the retailers. And a further 17% is wasted at the household level, in food services, and in retail. Agri-food system must be transformed to be more efficient, more inclusive, more resilient, and more sustainable. This urgent need transformation will contribute to the eradication of poverty, ending the hunger, and improve the access to the health care, as well as to promoting the sustainable use of natural resources, including land, water, fisheries, and forestry, while addressing the multidimensional challenges due to the impact of the climate crisis. With the right conditions in place, the targeted actions agrifood can be a powerful means to drive transformative change at all levels. As I said at the UN General Assembly in September, the initiative we must focus on for impact include 1, reduce food loss and waste, 2, understand the true cost of food, 3, build resilient value chains, 4, benefit from the positive role of the trade for food security, and 5th, take advantage of the data, digital, and space technologies. 6, improve the water management and soil sustainability. And 7, expand the social protection programs. But we also need to urgently mobilize increased and targeted investment to support the work in these areas. We needed to increase and accelerate the pool of the existing investment, as well as the newly needed financing resources and the financial instrument. We know that transforming agri-food system will cost $4 trillion or even more from now to 2030 in low and middle income countries, which amount to $680 billion per year. I'm therefore very pleased that this UNCTAD, the World Investment Forum, has dedicated a track on investing in transforming agri-food systems. I launched the FAO flagship hand-in-hand initiative to closing the SDG financing gap by mobilizing support for the implementation of the nationally led, nationally owned programs to accelerate the agri-food system transformation. The approach of the hand-in-hand initiative is highly innovative, using advanced geospatial platform, and applies the use of advanced analytics, as well as and data lab. In the context during the World Food Forum taking place at the FAO headquarters in Rome, in our roles as a trusted convener and matchmaker, FAO is bringing together the relevant partners, including the private and public sectors, around national investment priorities to mobilize support and operationalize national agricultural strategies and investment. We achieved a major milestone in October last year with the first hand-in-hand investment forum, and this year we are hoping for even stronger support and increased financing for the countries in need. At FAO, we look forward to working together with all the partners to transform our agrifood system for the four betters: better production, better nutrition, a better environment, a better life, ensuring we're leaving no one behind. And thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. That was the Director General of the FAO. Now we can go to the Assistant Director General of the FAO, Dr. Abdul Hakim El-Waer, who's also the regional representative for the Near East and North Africa. He was joining us earlier on Zoom. He was the other gentleman that you saw on Zoom earlier. If we can go to Dr. Abdul Hakim. Are you there? We would like to go to Dr. Abdul Hakim El-Waer. There you are. Fantastic, sir. We see you. Could you give us your closing remarks, please, for this session? You've been hearing us very carefully throughout the entire session. We'd love to hear your closing remarks. And at this point, I'm afraid I will have to leave you as the moderator and hand it over to Ahmad after Dr. Abdul Hakim has spoken, as I have to go to another session. So thank you, Ahmad. You'll take over. And over to you, Dr. Abdul Hakim. I'm hoping it's the 10-second delay again. Eventually, he'll hear me. Dr. Abdul Hakim, can you hear me? Could you give us your closing remarks, please? No, he seems to have frozen. Okay, in that case, I hear some movement there. Are you there? Okay, we can see you, but we can't hear you. We can see the Assistant Director General. Sadly, we cannot hear you. Okay, we are still having technical glitches and difficulties. I believe at this point, I would like to go to someone from the audience who had a question. So the person who had the question from the audience, could you identify yourself, please? We'd like to hear your question. We'll try to address it. Ahmad Mukhtar will try to address it, and ideally, we'd like to go back to the Assistant Director General at the end of the session. Thank you all once again. I'll see you later.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is François Serre. I'm a French lawyer, and regarding the topic, I would like to make a comment on the role of the private sector. There is a word which has not been heard today, is the word of agropark. And I think agropark or agropole in French are concepts which are being developed by different institutions, and it would be very important to see whether those agroparks were successful in the development of the agro-system, especially in Africa. I mean, I had a chance to work in Senegal, in Madagascar, and there are various challenges. I can see that those agropoles which are developed might have some challenges in terms of the local content, whether the local private sector, SMEs involved in transformation are being involved. The problem that I can see with agropole is that they might be oriented to export, when in fact, many problems in Africa is the question of import substitution. And I think that regarding the issue raised by the Minister of Mauritania, as an example, in Senegal, we are developing an agropole in the northern part, close to the river. And Senegal is importing 1.5 million tons of rice every year. So this project is very important, and we are looking maybe to develop incentive to develop those rice fields close to the river. There is another issue. I think the agropole should include local sector, local private sector. There are big investors, but they might not be so inclusive in terms of including the local private sector. And the last thing, I just came back from Kinshasa, and regarding those agropoles, the main issue is public-private partnership. What is the role of the public sector? What is the role of the private sector? And in fact, the theme of the session in Kinshasa was that the revenge of the soil against the subsoil, meaning that in fact, DRC has not been successful in the mining industry. And then now they are thinking of building a foreign sovereign fund to develop agriculture in order for the public sector to play its role, to build roads, to bring the food to the zone and from the zone to the port. So I think those issues, and I think it's a big critical moment to review those agropoles and to see whether they have been successful in developing the agro system. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Francois. I think, this was more of a summary or the rationale for our session rather than the question. I really appreciate. Well, we have a very short time left. We would try to respond to this question with requests to the panelists, if they wish to, particularly in the private sector and for Africa, POCSO Excellency. But then I think if we would have our ADG as well, hopefully connecting to us. He's a big fan of all of these ideas. And Francois, just for your information, we are going to develop an action plan, as Sharanjit mentioned, our moderator previously. But we do have some of these responsible agriculture investment guidelines within the FAO that deals with some of those issues. But one point that was mentioned, we have to keep in mind, this whole subsidies outlay or the public expenditure outlay, which is more than $700 billion per year, recorded or let's say reported by the countries, how can we get the best out of it? It is mostly consumption oriented, but we have to think about the repurposing and the efficiency and sustainability. But I'll stop here. I'll request if any of the panelists would like to respond to that question, or let's say comments very briefly, and then we can move to our ADG. Hopefully we would solve this issue by then. Thomas, maybe very briefly we can pose the question to His Excellency just on the repurposing and getting into the agropons and hydroponic type of technologies, particularly for Africa, that rather than focusing on the exports, it's better to have the import substitution policies through these investments.
Alors, la question pour vous est qu'est-ce que solution vous auriez, quelle solution vous proposez dans le sujet suivant. Alors, le monsieur a dit que c'est meilleur de croître la production agroalimentaire dans le pays, alors pour ne pas devoir importer les produits agroalimentaires. Alors, qu'est-ce que vous pensez, c'est meilleur que si vous comparez que développer le secteur agriculture pour exporter? Alors, quel est meilleur? Qu'est-ce que vous pensez? Et qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire pour augmenter la sécurité alimentaire avec la croissance de l'agriculture intérieure?
Particulièrement l'expenditure publique, pour les réorientations.
Oui. Vous savez, il demande encore une fois cette réorientation des fonds nationaux, des ressources nationales qui vous mettez maintenant dans l'agriculture. Alors peut-être ces ressources peuvent être utilisées mieux que maintenant pour promouvoir le secteur agriculture. Qu'est-ce que vous pensez?
En tout cas, si j'ai bien compris la question, nous, en tant qu'État, on a des stratégies, on a des partenaires au développement. Hein? On a des stratégies, on a des partenaires au développement, on a des actions que nous menons dans un cadre d'objectifs spécifiques d'autosuffisance alimentaire. Par rapport à ces différentes stratégies, je ne peux pas aller dans la présentation aujourd'hui des résultats. Je sais qu'au cours de ces dernières années, on a engagé beaucoup d'actions qui ont des résultats très significatifs en matière de couverture des besoins de certaines céréales, en particulier le riz. La Mauritanie aujourd'hui est pratiquement autosuffisant en riz. Elle participe dans son besoin encore sur certains produits de plus de 40%. Je sais que le cadre à travers lequel on peut réorienter nos financements vers d'autres actions suppose redéfinir encore des stratégies, les orienter vers d'autres axes peut-être plus cohérents aux yeux de ceux avec qui on va échanger par rapport à ces stratégies. Mais à l'heure où je vous parle, nous pensons que les différentes actions que le gouvernement a menées au cours de ces dernières années, et surtout en réponse des différents défis qu'on a vécu grâce à cause de la pandémie qui a ses effets et ses défis sur toute la planète, par rapport aux différentes guerres et par rapport à la situation sous-régionale que nous vivons, nous pensons que nos différentes stratégies ont été soutenues jusqu'ici sur des axes bien précis et clairs et qui répondent aux préoccupations majeures de nos populations en matière de sécurité alimentaire. Je vous remercie. Je ne sais pas si j'ai répondu à la question. En tout cas, ma compréhension à la question, c'est fait que...
Yes, thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. He's saying that the current plan of action that they are introducing in agriculture is coming from the challenges that emerged in recent years, like the COVID pandemic, economic difficulties, and geopolitical challenges. So if they would like to pursue different strategies like reorienting public support, they should change, these action plans. But he is telling as well some results of their actions, that, for example, they increased the rice production in Mauritania very considerably, so they are basically now self-sufficient in rice production. So that's all.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Excellency. Since we are running over time, but we have just one segment left, and after that we would all move to the Global Leaders Summit. We would request Dr. Abdelhakim El-Waer, who is the Assistant Director General and the Regional Representative for the Near East and North Africa, to deliver the closing remarks. Dr. El-Waer, I hope you can hear us, and if you can kindly start your closing remarks. Mariam, can we have Dr. El-Waer online?
Good afternoon, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. We had such an enriching, yes, I hear you. Do you hear me? Shall I proceed? Good afternoon, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. We had Dr. Nusayri, can you mute yourself? You have an echo from you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, I first apologize for not being able to be with you in person due to reasons out of control. And I really thank you all for participating in this very important session. It has been very enriching discussions and plenty of reflections and ideas. It makes my job, of course, difficult to try and summarize everything, but I'll try to highlight some of the key aspects of this session as you move forward to the other sessions. But first, let me thank, special thanks to UNCTAD for such an excellent collaboration to provide us at FAO Regional Office with this opportunity and the joint efforts to synthesize the world about the urgency and the rationale for investing into transforming the agri-food systems. Next, I would like also to thank our excellent moderator, Ms. Saranjit Leil, who improvised and moderated this session in a brilliant way and encouraged all the participants for a very enriching discussion. Of course, I would like to thank our excellent panelists who contributed different perspectives from their expertise and their institution's experience in this area. I would like also not to forget to thank all the participants who made this session a success through your participation and engagement. Over the next 4 days, you will have the opportunity to engage with policymakers, experts, and practitioners, both from public and private sector, and build connections, exchange ideas, and share know-how in the sessions that are coming in the next 4 days. Day 2, starting tomorrow, you will be going through 2 sessions, one on addressing agri-food challenges by technologies and innovations by foresight-based long-term planning. Whereas the second session of tomorrow will be on technology and innovation to increase resilience and support climate change adaptation and mitigation. The following day, day 3, will have 2 main events, one on innovative finance, very important to unlock investment in sustainable agri-food systems, and the second will be on forging the path, unveiling the private sector's agri-food investment journey. Day 4 will have 2 major events, including investing in inclusive agri-food systems transformation, and the second event will be transforming the urban food systems, and that is something very important where most of the consumption of the food takes place. The last day, day 5, will include investing in mitigating food loss and waste, a huge challenge when we know that we're still wasting about 40% of our food produced from farm to the table, and we're still looking at more production. So we better address this food loss and waste in order to maximize the efficiency of our production and utilization. The last and second event of day 5 will be investing in sustainable value chains and agri-food business, and this is where the opportunities for future business will come in. As we heard from all the panelists and the discussants, that we will not be able to achieve SDG 2 with the current state of affairs. The business as usual would get us out of business as the development community sooner or later. As we had a call for action, let us act now. For the Near East and North Africa region, the NENA region that I represent, the mega trends gathered by the FAO are pointing out that by 2032, the region is expected to become the world's largest net food importer on a per capita basis, and second only to the developed and East Asia region in terms of volume of imports. The interlocking effects of population growth, severe limitations in production capacity, triple burden of malnutrition will put unprecedented pressure on the current agri-food systems in the region, which in turn will push the Near East and North Africa countries' food trade deficits further with serious environmental and socio-economic consequences. And if we add to this the protracted conflicts in the region, as well as the water scarcity challenge, the lack of arable lands, then we know that the challenge will be much greater as we move forward. Despite these challenges, we do not have adequate investments, public or private, in the agri-food systems. We have huge levels of public sector spendings, but very few are targeted towards productivity and sustainability. We need to think about repurposing such fiscal support mechanisms and support investments towards transforming agri-food systems. This is the reason we are organizing this track during the World Investment Forum together with UNCTAD and FAO and all the partners. Through our collective expertise, we will leverage the momentum generated by this forum and to transform our discussions into action to shape a better future for food and agriculture through better production, better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life, leaving no one behind. I thank you all, and I thank in particular my colleagues, Ahmed Mukhtar, and all the team with him for setting all these events for the next 5 days, today and the next 4 days. And we really look forward to the outcome of the discussions and the recommendations that will shape up our future programs and projects. Maybe just to inform all participants, the Near East and North Africa Office of the Food and Agriculture Organization will be hosting early next year the Regional Conference of Ministers of Agriculture in Amman, Jordan, and the outcome of these discussions will be presented then to inform the policymakers of the future directions to preserve and sustain our food. I thank you all and wish you all the best for the coming days. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alwar. Now, a big thanks to all of the participants and particularly staying late, but even more to our esteemed panelists, to His Excellency the Ministers. We had another minister from Dominica, he left. Ambassador Najm, thank you very much. And all other panelists, and a special thanks to our moderator Sharanjit as well. She had to moderate another session. And above all of the participants. Thank you so much, and we'll hope to see you in different sessions around the next 4 to 5 days. You have our calendar of events of the FAO. Of course, there are many parallel events and competing events rather, but I hope to see you in many of the sessions. And we have a pavilion as well of the FAO. You would greatly benefit if you visit that pavilion in some material terms as well, not just knowledge. So thank you once again, and enjoy the rest of the week in the World Investment Forum. Thank you all.